Test track, 1, 2, 3, go.
Test baby, 1, 2, 3.
The Magic's happening. Apparently, Magic is a game that. Have you ever heard of Magic: The Gathering?
Oh yeah, that came out when I was in school.
Yeah, people are really into it still. Which I'm okay with it because
it's not video games.
It's not video games. It's like a. I understand it's a card game.
Yeah.
Do you know what to do? You played it.
No, I've never played it. I promise you, I've never played that game. But
okay,
know, I mean, I know I'm dorky enough that I would have played that, but I never played it.
It's pretty secret. It's pretty from what I understand, it's pretty underground. Like,
oh really?
They meet up. There's actual sites, host sites where they play.
Yeah.
Where they play Magic. So
the problem with those games is that they're so expensive.
Oh yeah, it's like when you have Clash of Clans and these in-app purchase games.
Yeah.
Yeah, they become really expensive.
Yeah.
You have to, which to me it's like, okay, wait a second. So you could just buy your skill.
Yeah.
I guess they would argue, well, no, you have to develop the skill, but still.
Well, I mean, at this point, it's been out for decades, so there's thousands of cards, and you only play with 50, 100 cards or whatever it is. So it's a matter of taking all these thousands of options and putting together, a deck that works for you. That's the idea.
So you do know about the game.
I mean, I've played card games. I haven't played Magic.
I like stuff that is. I mean, you could argue that instruments, if you play a certain instrument, obviously, if you're playing a King 606, which is a beginner model trombone,
mm-hmm.
versus a Tyne, which is the top line professional, there's a difference there. So I guess you could argue that in most instances, money is part of it. So.
Yeah, well, and you buy packs, and it's just like baseball cards. Did you ever do baseball cards?
Yeah, I dabbled in it. Yeah.
So you have common cards, you have rare cards.
Yeah.
So a Babe Ruth rookie card would be the ultimate rare, and it's anyway. And the rare cards, the better cards.
Babe Ruth rookie card.
Babe Ruth on your Magic.
Everybody's like, no.
But you either buy tons of packets to get these good cards, which is a lot of money, or you go to a card shop and you just buy them individually, which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So,
All right. I don't want to talk about cards anymore.
You don't like
cards?
cards?
I just don't like cards.
You don't like cards?
I like playing. Okay, ERS. Did you ever play Egyptian Rat Screw?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I have broken so many fingernails over that game, but worth it when you actually get it. So that's I think that's the card game that I like the most. Uno's fun. Uno's if you ever want to lose a friend, just say, hey, let's play Uno.
Right.
And then they will never talk to you again. I've gotten in more fights over Uno, not actual fights, but just verbal fights over Uno than I don't know, family issues or politics. Politics and family issues have nothing on Uno.
You know what the ultimate lose a friend game is?
What's that?
Monopoly. Monopoly. Because to win that game, you have to screw over your opponent.
Yeah. Do you, have you ever actually finished a game of Monopoly?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't, ever. So, there's that.
It takes a long time.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think we should actually get into the topic of today.
Are we recording?
Every episode.
Sorry.
We've been recording for 5
I know we're
minutes.
recording. I'm just kidding now.
Oh, okay. That'd be so funny. We're signing off and you're like, wait.
Wait, that was the episode?
We're recording. So I think today we're going to try, the goal of the podcast is to close out the finance series and actually dive into what it is that Michael and I do to supplement our incomes as private lessons teachers, which, again, base salaries are good. They're not, as you aptly put it, slap your boss money.
Yeah.
Which even if we did make a lot of money, we really don't have bosses to slap
That's true.
per se. You know, like we do work hand in hand with the directors,
Right.
but as far as we are not told what to do.
Technically, your customers are your boss.
Sure,
So it'd be like going and slapping all the parents.
not advisable.
That's not a wise idea.
I don't know that.
Rule
Ann
number
Scale
one,
would be
slide-
super
private
happy
teaching.
with us doing-
Don't slap the parents. Or the kids.
or the kids. Yeah. So, anyways, we're going to close out the series, and then we can forecast what we're going to be talking about over the next however many weeks. I mean, the way the weeks are going by so fast now is just ridiculous. It's the last day of July, and dude, I just feel like life is happening very fast right now, and that's one thing that my dad taught me a lot growing up. And one of the things is like as you get older, time goes even quicker.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah. So, anyways, we're gonna
It's really
appreciate.
scary.
But
It's also the sign of the Armageddon.
what?
In Revelations, in the Bible, it talks
Oh.
about how time starts to go faster and faster. So the end of the world is nigh.
Okay. It's also like snowballs going down hills,
Going up hills?
down hills.
Oh, down hills.
Yeah. It's philosophy, right?
Right.
You know, momentum.
Is that what they mean by something snowballing? I'm kidding.
I hope are you running for politics one day?
I'm in rare form this morning.
Yeah.
Am I running for politics?
Or office. I shouldn't say running for politics. Running for office.
I actually entertain that idea. Because, you know, you
You're
listen to
so
the news, you get
screwed.
so mad at what's
you have
going
so
on.
much Oppo research on you right now.
The problem is, okay, you decide to run for office. You have to pick a party. I mean, I guess you could do it without going through a party, but then,
You're not gonna win.
well, there's the whole money thing and, you know, power and all that. So you have to pick a party. And after the party's picked, the idea of hanging out with people in that political party and schmoozing and you know, networking just is like, makes me sick.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I could ever do the politics thing.
No.
I think there's too much underground stuff that has to go with it, and I think the initial thought of most people, young people that get into politics, is, "Oh, I can fix the system.
Yeah.
I can do it." And it's like, and then you talk to them 10 years later, and they're like, "Yeah, no."
Yeah. I've got a friend who is currently, a new friend, who is running for Congress in Denton County.
Like actual.
Like the United
US
States Congress,
Congress,
yeah. He's going up against Michael Burgess, if you're familiar who that is. He's the congressman in the Denton area.
Okay.
I occasionally ask him, hey, how's the campaign going? And he's always very positive. He's a great guy. West Point grad, you know, stand-up human being.
Cool.
But I know that he goes to these things all the time to network, where it's like 10 people show up, and those people may or may not be influencers in the political party in that area, and so he just kind of schmoozes them. And in events like that, they bring out the crazies. So you have, you know, Cletus from the backwoods of Denton, who's like, you know, you take my gun, I'll kill you. You know, that type of person.
With what gun, Cletus?
And so, I mean, I don't know. I couldn't deal with that.
Yeah, dude, there are some.
To bring out the crazies.
So I like seeing the crazies from afar. You know, like I like seeing the Twitter crazies, the people who, you know, call Orthodox Jew Ben Shapiro a Nazi. Like, I think that's hilarious. I think that's the funniest thing in the world. Yeah, it's just kind of like you cross your eyes. But to actually have to talk to them in person and try to like fake woo them,
and like be in pictures with them, and you know, get their vote. I
just nope.
No.
So, and then there's just and then that's just to win. And then once you win, it's just, oh god, it's just it's so much drama all the time, dude. Like your whole life is just drama.
Yeah.
And then dealing with stupid people. I think that's politics in a nutshell.
That's rough.
So
stupid people are rough.
yeah. So well, that was a nice little 5-minute tirade off the subject we were supposed to be talking about.
What are we supposed to talk about today?
Real estate and business ownership.
Okay.
So, you want to rock, paper, scissors to see who starts?
Well, okay. Well, so before we rock paper scissors, and I'm okay with that. Why are we talking about this?
Yeah. So we're talking about this. The original series title was Music and Finance, and the bow that we want to put on it is like if you have questions about how musicians can stay musicians and not be quote unquote poor. You'll never be poor unless you don't know how to build a studio, or you don't have the skill set to get a job. That might be something that we talk about also, is just interview etiquette, because I've been talking, obviously there's a lot of activity going on in Prosper, and I just don't understand, because they're saying there are some people who have really great interviews. Mr. Raisenbrink is here now.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Raisenbrink, who was at U of H whenever I was there. I think
Oh, was he really?
Yeah. So I know him also.
Wow.
But how to have a good interview and what you need to do to set yourself up as a music educator, because we do have insights on that also.
Yeah.
So basically the finality of this episode is, this is what you can do, what you should do if your base salary as a private lessons teacher isn't enough to keep you happy. If it is enough to keep you happy, Godspeed, go forth and do it. And you should have comfort knowing that you will be able to make sufficient income with a 40 to 50 hour work week to live and live abundantly.
I think it's also how to retire. You know.
Something we should talk about.
Well, I mean, I think this is that.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, that's what Tony Robbins and those people talk about, exit strategies.
Yeah. I mean, with
Yeah.
everything you go into, you should have an exit strategy.
Yep.
And so, you don't want to be private teaching, all the way until you die.
Which
I mean, you can.
I've
but
seen that. And
I've
it's scary.
absolutely seen it too.
Scary.
And musicians are notorious for being terrible with their finances and not figuring out how to retire, and then they just play and teach beyond their usefulness.
Right.
And
so you mentioned terrible with finances. There's a book that my brother Jonathan read, and he kind of turned me on to. It's called YNAB, which is You Need a Budget. Which, if budgeting sounds just like the worst thing ever, it's really not. And it opens your eyes to a lot of stuff, because if you're just living your life without keeping a budget, dude, you're spending money in places that you don't even realize.
Yeah.
You'll do your first budget and you'll have $500 in fast food. It's like, wow, I didn't even realize. Or I don't do that, or not necessarily fast food, but just eating out in general. So have a budget, no matter what you do. I don't care if you're like going into a music career, or going into finance, or you're just going into corporate America. Like, you need to keep a budget.
Yeah.
So, anyways, why don't we start with real estate?
Want to start with the real estate?
Yeah.
So we mentioned a little bit
So
before.
I'm a kid that's going into college, or I'm a high schooler, and like, you hear about real estate all the time, but like, you've actually done it. I don't have any real estate, so not yet, at least. So what do I need to do as a up and coming person to get my first real estate property, or what are the steps that I should do before that?
Okay, so the initial steps are, you need multiple things. You need money. So you need some sort of savings program.
Okay.
So whether it's, I mean, my favorite one is The Richest Man in Babylon, where you just take 10% of what you make and just put it over to a savings account, just let it accumulate, so you have a little bit of a nest egg that you can put into an investment. So that's the first thing. That's the thing that maybe takes the longest, because depending on how you buy it, depending on the deal, depending on the economy at the time, I think right now in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, with our current housing market, probably need $20,000-$25,000 to buy a house.
Okay.
An investment house, which is not crazy, but it's not cheap.
Right.
Now, back in 2008, after the housing market crash, you could get a house for $0 down, because no one was buying houses. And so the prices were just, they were at the bottom of the barrel, which sucked for the people that had a bunch of houses, but it was great for the people that wanted to buy houses.
Right.
So, it just depends. So that's the first thing. You need credit. And
How do you build credit?
well, so first of all, credit is short for credibility. Sort of, not really, but it's sort of. It's can you be trusted to take on a loan? That's really what it is. And so you get a score. It's in the hundreds, and you build credit by having bills that you pay on time, and having some sort of credit card balance or loan balance that you manage properly. So now it's a double-edged sword because if you have a credit line, it can kill you if you abuse it.
Yep.
But you also need to have to do anything. You need credit. So I think my first diving into a credit line was I bought an engagement ring through Kay Jewelers on a credit card, and then just paid that off.
Did they do a max out credit card? Like they put a limit and then they did that limit?
I don't remember.
Because that's what I had to finance part of my trombone. I put $4,000 down and then financed two.
Yeah.
And they put it on a $2,000 credit card, and my credit tanked. And I was like, man, I did not realize.
Yeah, but once you pay it off.
Oh yeah, once you pay it off, your credit skyrockets.
Yeah. And so that's, if I didn't have an engagement ring or an instrument to buy, I would probably apply for one of these pre-approval cards that come in the mail.
Secured credit card. My brother
Go ahead and get one of those.
Built up his credit that way.
Yeah, and maybe like buy a tank of gas on there per month and then pay it off every month, just so that you put money on, you take it off, on, off, and it never gets out of control, and you develop your credit.
Right.
So those are the first two things you need. You need money, you need credit, and you need education, and you can go through classes for that. If anyone wants to take any classes, they can email me, and I'd be happy to point them in the right direction. But you need to be educated, because even though I think real estate is fairly safe if you do it right, you could do it wrong, and it could cost you dearly.
Right.
So, and
Yeah.
then it's just a matter of just being patient.
So how would you structure? So we go through all that. We educate ourselves. We build up credit. We get the $25,000, and we get we're ready to get our first house. So how do you gauge what, let's say, area you want to invest in, and then also on top of that, like the point of all of it is to make residual mailbox money. How do you gauge what price you want to put on a house?
So
As far as renter cost,
when you take
right?
when you take the classes, you learn the basics of how houses are priced, and how you come up with that stuff. Now, until you're actually in the market and working in the market, it's tough to know what a house actually goes for in that area, or what a good area is. So that's where you go to a realtor, I think.
Okay.
First free deals. Find a realtor who specializes in investors.
Okay.
Most realtors are I want to buy you your dream home house, and that you go and you look at this house with all the upgrades, and you're paying top dollar, and they're just trying to sell you a house. You got to go to investor realtor. They're the people who can walk you into a house that's falling apart, which is actually what you do buy as an investor. You buy the ugliest thing you could find, and then you fix it up, and that's how you get value out of it. But it takes a special eye to walk into a house and know that one or two scenarios are the case. One, it's not fixable. This thing should just be burned to the ground.
Sure.
Or two, it looks terrible, but it's actually fixable.
Yeah. So they have the eye for potential.
The bones of it are fine.
Sure.
And so I think that's where you start. And then once you get into it a little bit, then you start knowing what to look for.
So should you plan to have on top of your $25,000 maybe an extra how much to fix it up, because you're going to need money to fix it up after you buy it.
That
correct?
$25,000 is usually that includes your rehab.
Okay. That's good to know.
And there's special loans that you learn to take for an investment. And the classes should walk you through it. It's called a hard money loan. You call it a Joe the Investor loan, where it's both to purchase the house and fix it up.
Yeah. Okay. So if let's just say I've got the house, I've got it fixed up. You've got some renters. You found some people. How do you find renters? Do you just obviously you're going to put a sign out in front of it. This is for lease,
Well, we used to.
but you don't.
I think
anymore.
we're going to stop that.
What do you do online stuff?
We went through this last weekend.
Okay.
So we had a unit open in Bedford, one side of a duplex, and we went the old school route, putting signs out. We were going to do an open house, and we just kind of sat there and hopefully get some foot traffic. We put it on Zillow and Craigslist and all that, and we got a few people that came in. And then about halfway, an hour into the open house, my wife was like, "I wonder if Facebook would be a good place to advertise it." And so she put a little ad on Facebook in the Facebook Marketplace, and we had people there within the hour that were ready to look at it. And in the next 24 hours, we got 90 responses
Good Lord.
of people that wanted it, and they were ready to sign an application before seeing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and so the person that we have that's going to be signing the lease on Friday, we found through Facebook. And it was one of those people that saw the ad and was there within the hour to see it and filled out an application and was ready to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really, really cool.
So it's using kind of our new platform to find a renter. I think from here on, until things change, which they will, because that's how business works, Facebook is how we're going to find a renter.
Okay. That's interesting because with my gig, I got to find people that want to work.
Yeah.
And dudes, we're not sponsored by them yet, but ZipRecruiter is freaking amazing, dude.
Yeah.
I needed somebody really quickly. I needed like 4 or 5 people in the Rockwall area. And dude, I got like 10 applications by noon the next day, and I posted it at like midnight.
Yeah.
So within 12 hours, I got 10 different people. So they're great.
It's using the new technology.
Yeah.
I mean, you think through it. You're creative. You adapt. Keep your mind open. My gosh, there's a lot of power out there.
So I guess let's do this as a closing question. What do you feel like? Let's say that you're a musician that wants to have supplemental income. What's a good number of rental properties I should shoot for to have enough residual income to be comfortable, right? You're still going to have to work hard. You're still going to be busting your butt every single day. But it's nice to have an extra X amount of dollars added to my salary in order to live comfortably, right? So what do you feel like is a good number of properties that I should shoot for if I'm trying to get into the real estate game?
So this is oversimplified.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think 10 houses.
10 houses.
Yeah, if they net you $400 to $600 of profit per house,
So
that's
you're
$4,000 to
adding
$6,000.
So that would be an extra 48 to
$72,000.
$72,000 on top of your salary.
So if you try to buy one house every year for 10 years, you'll never have to work again.
Right? If you're smart with your money.
Yeah, and then you got a nest egg that you start to figure out, okay, well, if I sell this house, I'll make a big profit. So I could sell that house, take the profit, buy 2 houses with that. And so it starts to become more exponential as you go.
Okay. So you're talking about 10 houses. If you're sitting on 10 houses, you got potentially 48 to 72,000 coming in with all that comes along with it, and then you're also making about 60 to 70 on top of that with your teaching salary. You're looking at a salary of between $120,000 and $150,000 a year.
Yeah. Well, not only that, as the housing market has always gone up. I mean, there are times where it goes down, but throughout the course of history, it's always gone up.
Yep.
So you start to develop what's called equity in these houses, where if you sell them, you make a certain amount of profit, and that's income too that we don't think about. But we bought a house that we just sold recently, where we made $140,000 of profit.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and so we held that house for 10 years, and we made $600 a month for 10 years. So that's 7,200 times 10, $72,000 plus the $140,000 of selling the house. So we made $210,000 on this one house, and now we've got $140,000 that we can just
Do whatever you need to with.
right.
So typically, I think for younger people that in that scenario, obviously it takes time. But number two, like if you're still in the work mode, in the grind game, you're probably going to want to reinvest that into something that makes you even more money.
Yeah, yeah. You just keep growing it.
Yeah, money makes money, and that's a good segue into what I want to talk about next. The point being that there's only certain ways that you can make money, and this is one of the things that people hear about. I think a lot of young people hear about it. It's just so like not taught in school that it's just kind of one of those scary things. I was listening to a podcast called The Art of Manliness. Have you ever heard
I've heard of it. I've never listened to it.
So they were doing an episode on why people are afraid to dive into certain subjects because they feel overwhelmed by how deep each subject goes. So like let's say you want to learn how to play drums. You look at people like Neil Peart, who's the drummer for Rush, and he's just an incredible musician, and you go, oh, I'll never be like that. So you don't even go through the basics. Where like if you actually go through the basics and you start to dabble in it a little bit, dip your toes in the pond, so to speak, like your brain actually grows. Our brains are actually shrinking right now because of how little we're exploring and diving into new subjects because we're occupied by work, social media, etc. But basically, there's two ways. I think there's two ways to create what we're talking about here, which is residual income, money that you make while you're asleep, right? Which that's everybody's dream, dude. That's an amazing thing that financial minds have come up with, right? There's really only two ways to do that, and that's one through, I think, real estate, and then two, there's owning a business that.
I would lump real estate into it, like investments in general.
Yeah, right. So there's like, life insurance accumulates over time, stocks, bonds, all these, hedge fund management, stuff like that. That side of it I've never really gotten into because it just kind of feels like gambling.
Right.
Not in this economy, but I don't know if you've ever looked at the stock market. Yeah, you're right. I mean, have you looked at the stock market between like 2008 and now?
Oh, it's gone up a lot.
Dude, it's incredible. It's like 12 to 15,000 points, which is just like, why did I not invest in 2008 when I was in 8th grade?
Right.
Take my $20. Yeah, so anyways, the way that I make money is different from, well, now it's not necessarily any different. You've employed people now. So, nice job. I don't know. Is that the first time you've ever done that?
Wait, we talk about for what?
Employed people?
For what?
For camp?
Oh. Well, I mean, I've hired people for gigs as like subcontractors, which is similar.
Yeah. So, well, the other way, like we were saying, the other way to make that money residually is to hire people and give them a job that they want. And then part of that, so there's kind of like this new age thought about hiring, and I like it. Personally, I think it's great. It makes the hiring process a lot easier. It used to be that like you would take people on and you would hire them and take them through the process of the interviewing and explaining and laying down the foundation of your company and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you would hire them at $8, $9, $10 an hour.
Right.
Right. And for a new company, that sounds attractive because less money in payroll expenses means more money in your pocket, quote unquote, I would say. But the way that we've structured our company, I say our company, the company that we have is called First Valet, and they're a valet trash company. And if you don't know what valet trash is, you probably live in Prosper because the only apartment complex here is Prosper Orion, which actually has valet living, a competitor of ours. Anyway, valet trash is where it's a simple concept. We run to your door, literally sometimes, with a leak-proof bag, and we take your trash down to a truck, and we take that truck over to the dumpster and dump your trash. Okay, so Does that sound like follow your dreams?
Yes. When I was little, when I was real little, I would see the trash guy go, and I totally wanted to be a trash person. In fact, I had this little tractor that I would ride around and talk about. It was my trash truck.
You're overqualified. Sorry. Anyway, it's a great workout, but anyway, so
To answer your question truthfully, no.
okay.
It sounds like you're doing something. I'm stereotyping. That is like beneath you and takes. It's like. It sounds like it's something that's beneath you.
And to be honest, to most people that I talk to that are apartment managers, regionals, etc., it is beneath them. They don't want to deal with it. It's a nasty, disgusting, gross industry, and I just don't think they know. Are there times when it's gross? Yeah, dude, it's trash. Like there's no two ways about it. You know, some people there are awful people out there, and they put some awful things outside of their doors, and we have to pick it up.
Right.
That's fine. We'll deal with it, right? And so how would you combat the grossness and the hard? I mean, you're running upstairs, flights for an hour and a half. It's basically like an hour and a half to 2 hour workout.
Right.
So how do you combat that? I think it's simple. You just pay them more, and part of that is in the industry. There's a ton of money that people just don't know about, right? And we've gotten big enough as a company to where we don't have to like hide it or whatever. So we're not like fearful of other people joining the industry and like becoming competitors of ours. Like no one's going to do it better than we are, right? So but anyways, so you pay really, really well. I mean, we hire at $20 to $25 an hour, and we don't have a lot of turnover outside of people moving to out of town, I should say.
Right.
But I've been calling around doing customer or employee satisfaction kind of surveys, and everybody's really, really happy with what they're able to do. It's great hours. But the point being is if you don't want to go the real estate route, you don't have to do something that you're just crazy, crazy, crazy passionate about. I was listening to Mike Rowe's TED Talk back from 2008. I don't know if you've ever heard that one.
No, but I've heard lots by Mike Rowe.
Yeah, he's wonderful. But he was talking about how you don't have to do something that you absolutely are in love with. A lot of the people that he talked to on Dirty Jobs that had these just crazy, like they're multi-million-dollar businesses. It wasn't their passion. It wasn't what they wanted to do, but it was an exit strategy, right?
Right.
So think of ways that either you can. I mean, the way that First Valet got into the industry was. One of the owners, Jackie, was living in an apartment complex, and they would miss his door multiple times a week. He would wake up, there would be trash strewn throughout the apartment complex because they would overstack on the truck and it would fall off the truck. And he walked into the apartment manager's office and said, "What is going on here?"
Right.
And the apartment manager was like, "We don't know of any other companies. Do you know any other companies?" And he said, "Yeah, I own a valet trash company." At the time, he did not.
Right.
But that's part of it too, is like dive in, like don't get overwhelmed with all the niceties of it. This is what we're doing here. We're not getting overwhelmed with this, that, and the other. It's like we're just kind of taking it as it goes.
Yeah.
Right. So find an industry that you could do better, or you got to either disrupt or improve. Right. So my dad has a janitorial company that he owns. He basically saw that he could do it better in janitorial. I mean, that had been around for how many years? Commercial janitorial has been around for forever.
Right.
He started a company, interrupted the industry. He was a janitor coming out of high school. Never went to college. Never got a degree. Barely. I mean, I know he didn't barely get his high school diploma. He definitely got his high school diploma. But then he became a truck driver, and then he became a janitor, and now he makes really, really good money.
Yeah.
So.
Which people don't expect in a quote-unquote not high, I hate to say high level, but, we consider things to be highbrow. That's a good way to say it. Clean trash or cleaning stuff up does not seem highbrow. It doesn't seem sophisticated. So therefore, there's no way that you can make money in it. Well, that's just not true.
Right.
It's just not true at all.
And on top of what, I mean, we don't talk politics very much, but he employs over 500 people.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what those 500 people didn't do. They weren't forced into that job. I mean, I've been walking around South Lake Town Center. He's responsible for all of that. And seen people with my dad's company's shirt on. And I'll talk to him about it. I'll say like, hey, my dad's the owner of the company, and they love my dad.
Yeah.
Like they really appreciate what he's been able to do because he pays his people really well.
Yeah.
And that's always part of it. I think if you're going to go into business ownership, you need to learn how to pay people well, because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you've got honest, hardworking people that you've been lucky enough to find, pay them well. There's still a profit outside of that. And like I was talking to Mr. Smith, the director, about this last night. This is something that I wasn't aware of until I entered the industry or entered this type of business ownership. Like you can pay people really well and still draw a profit. And then at the end of the day, you're honest with yourself. And just like, Tony Robbins always talks about, the more people you help, the more money you're going to make. So these people were looking for a job that didn't have, they hate the hours that I used to work at Chick-fil-A, which were like 5 o'clock in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. They don't, that sucks. $8 an hour. Give me a break. So they like the 8 o'clock at night to 10 o'clock at night kind of gig, and they can make $50
Right.
in that time span. Some people make a lot more than that in my company, which is great. I'm proud to say that. But so I think that's a little oversimplistic. Again, if you have any questions, email us. And there's a lot of research that goes into owning a company, because you have to form an LLC, you have to get QuickBooks and keep your books. You don't really want to hire an accountant right off the gate. There's no point.
But I mean, this is all stuff that's learnable.
Right, and it's all, how I learned it. So I went to the YouTube.
Yeah.
And just went how to form an LLC.
Or find a book. Or, yeah.
So that's kind of, let's put a pin in that, and we'll call that supplemental income for your private lessons or your education degree.
But I think, to summarize what you've done, is that you've found a need.
Yeah.
And you fulfill the need, and you learn to monetize it, and then you treat people right. And that right there is not exclusive to trash. That is all of business. That's music. You find a need, you figure out how to fulfill it, you monetize it, and you treat people right.
Yeah.
You do that, you'll be fine.
Yep. It's a good summation too, and that's also real estate.
Yeah.
That's exactly, you're filling a need for the guy who's signing the contract.
Yeah, they got to live.
Right. So I think that's a good closer to that. We do have a question from Ann Scahill, and we don't have time to do it today.
Right.
But we're going to dedicate an episode to it.
Right. Yeah. So her question was, she left a comment on one of our areas. I don't know if it was on iTunes or something like that.
Okay.
By the way, if whoever's listening, if you get a chance to give us a 5-star review and then leave a comment, we would love that. That really helps to increase visibility on iTunes.
Or share it with a friend, say,
please
hey,
share.
I don't know if you listen to podcasts much, but these guys don't talk just about Mozart and Beethoven and Bach. I don't think we've ever talked about that kind of stuff. But
I guess we could, but we haven't yet.
Yeah, there's a ton to talk about. Golly, this might be like a daily thing one day, but
maybe
that'd be fun.
Anyway, Ann asked, she said she's a parent, and she's got a student here at Prosper High School, and she said, maybe if we get a chance, we could talk to parents and say, what could you do to help encourage your student and provide what that student needs to be successful in a music program. And I think, again, this is not just music. This is all of school.
Right.
But I think that's a really great topic, and I'd love to dive into that more.
Okay. Well, I'm down. I think that'll be next week. Week after that, we could do all-state talks. Week after that, we could do marching band talks. We could have people in to talk about how marching season's going.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that we can talk about over the next semester. So school's almost starting. If you haven't started working on the all-state music, you're behind. You're officially taking L's from other people.
Right.
So be on the lookout. We're going to start putting out recordings, YouTube videos that are going to link to our website and kind of explain the program of what we're trying to put together and trying to help people out, really, is what we're trying to do, is kind of create a little bit of expedite the Allstate process and make it to where you're not so. We believe that right now the Allstate process is you get the music and it's like a good luck kind of thing.
Right.
And we're trying to create a little bit of organization there, create a practice plan, so to speak. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to be putting out a ton of content over the next couple weeks. So are we good?
Dude, I'm so good.
So good. So good. Okay. Signing off. Peace.